Um, so the quote today is from Elon Musk, and it says, "Any product that needs a manual to work is broken." And I love that because, when we have had our previous conversations this month about how to make sure that each customer journey is appropriate and we make sure we hold their hand all the way through, this is also a good reminder that if we're holding hands with our customers too much, or we need to give people too many things to know how to use it and work it, that maybe there's something bigger that we're missing, whether it's the right customer or we're making it too complicated. There's something there. What do you guys hear in that quote?
Well, my first internal response is, I hate reading the manual.
Yeah.
I always skip the manual.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess maybe lucky for me, my husband is a guy who reads the manual. So I was like, wait, people actually read the car manual? The manual that comes with a car? Don't you just drive it? So I'm like, my reaction is, I get it, because I don't want to read the manual.
Mm-hmm. Ironically, about car manuals, somebody broke into my car and they stole like a pair of sunglasses that were in there. They stole one. She's on patrol at the back gate. They stole my car manual, they stole sunglasses, and they stole like my phone charger. Out of all the things that are in my car, I'm like, who wants the manual? Like, why? Like, are you using it to like start a fire? Because that's the only logical reason why I would steal it if that was ever needed. Yeah. So anyway, tangent about car manuals. What else do you guys hear?
Keep things uncomplicated.
Yeah.
Like, stop overthinking.
Yes, and I'm putting the quote in the chat for everyone else too. Yeah, so the quote today is from Elon Musk, and it's, "Any product that needs a manual to work is broken." And so we're just kind of talking about what does that mean in relationship to the other quotes we've had, the other conversations about product creation. And as you're really diving into your product and how it works, what else does that make you see?
I can go.
Yeah.
Okay. So it for me, it makes it sound like it needs, like, the product should be intuitive. Like, if you have a product and people don't really know that you need a manual to use it,
Mm-hmm.
then it's clearly not intuitive. I think that's when, if you think about Apple, and the reason why Apple is so successful in the iPhone is you can take it and it's just easy to use, and you get it. Like, maybe I've never once looked at the manual for my iPhone. I didn't need to.
Yeah.
Right. But if you need a manual to like use your product, then maybe it's too complicated and most people might not go through the trouble of reading the manual, because I've never, like, until I've gotten like to a point where I'm like, I should probably figure out how this thing works. Like, I've never really read a manual.
Yeah. What I think is really interesting.
Sorry. My phone.
What I think is really interesting as well is when you look at the Apple iPhone manuals, they are very similar to an IKEA manual. Like, no pictures, no words, all pictures, and like 3 pages. That's like all you get, versus like we just got a new food processor, and no joke, the manual is like as thick as this notepad. And I'm like, what could I possibly do with this? Like, this is the manual I'd expect to go to like Mars with. Like, this is what I expect the Dragon rocket manual to look like this, not for a food processor.
Hopefully there's like 10 different languages in there and they all say, don't put your hand in the processor when the blade is.
Right.
And they probably need to do it for legal reasons.
Right. It was crazy. And when you do the Mancari process, the first thing you throw away in paper, manuals. You don't need them. Because guess what? We have Google.
I was thinking of the words "is broken," and that resonates with me because as a user, when a user goes through, experience a product, so they go through their user experience and they hit a hiccup or they hit something that they don't understand, they either assume something is wrong with them or something is wrong with the product.
Mhm.
So any product that needs a manual to work is broken, is not. So the way that works for me is kind of like a psychological side of the user base, because they're just going to go, what's wrong with this thing, and throw it out before they go, oh, I'm going to read this 6-page
Mhm.
manual. So technically it is broken to somebody. And if they are failing to blame the product and now they're blaming themselves, then the product is broken on the user interface side or user experience side because they've officially not done their job correctly.
Yeah. Well, you start to also be able to sort your customers based on who's really committed to what your product is versus those that don't, right? Because whenever, as someone who's launched a lot of things, you really start to appreciate the people who give you feedback, the people who reach out and say anytime somebody responds, you can assume that this happened to 9 other people and it's just the 10th one that said something or asked the question. And so anytime people do respond or ask questions, that's always such a huge indicator as to why is this happening, right? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I hate that. My shipping manager always says, oh, well, no one else reached out to me, so it's not a problem. I'm like, that's not true. No one's going to go through the process of sending you an email every time something's wrong. You don't do it, and I don't do it. So we have to address this problem because if one person had it or if 2 people had it, then probably a dozen people had it,
Yeah, if not more. And it depends on what type of relationship you have with your customers. Most of the people in the Powerful Ladies community, as an example, are very communicative, right? We've had some level of interaction. So most people don't think twice of sending me a text or a message in the system or an email being like, how do I find this? Where is this? Why is it broken? Which is awesome because you as product creator can never see your product the way that a customer can, right? That entire testing phase that we've talked a bit about, you have to have people who have no idea what you're doing to actually go through the whole motions. I think I've told you guys, I know it's in the course, but I talk about how my go-to is the 5-year-old and the 80-year-old rule. How do I get the youngest person possible to go through this product? How do I get the oldest person possible to use this product? And if both of them can, I know we're fine. My main customer will be able to figure it out. And you might think it's a little extreme to go for those far ends of the age spectrum, but actually it points out things that just kind of become human. So for example, if you're doing a live event or activity, using people in that age group, they will tell you when they get bored, when they need a glass of water, when they need to use the bathroom. And you start to remember oh yeah, there's all this just normal biology that's going on. So when people ask, why shouldn't a class be more than 2 hours or a coaching session? If you're providing any service, it shouldn't be longer than 2 hours at once, because most people have to pee every hour, but 2 hours is the longest you can kind of go before people need something else. So that's really where the cutoff is. Even if a client wants to do a big brainstorming, like a half day or a full day session, we can totally do that. And then now it becomes a conference because we need to have coffee and water and snacks and bathroom breaks planned in, because that's going to happen. Or we need to factor in 15 minutes here or there for people to respond to a phone call or a text. All the things are your day start to really invade in it. And those things pointed out, even if you're why would that matter? Kids are also coming from, a lot of my time in footwear and apparel was doing kids products. And I think they are the best customers to have when it comes to tangible products, because one, they are totally unfiltered. One of my favorite memories ever is an entire room of kids chanting ugly. about this like adult shoe that we had taken down because we were told to, and to see the whole room like ugly was like so rewarding as somebody who didn't want to have to take that shoe down. And then also like they tell you things like, I remember this is like 20 years ago, probably, like an 8-year-old kid being like, I don't want blue, my favorite color is pink, I want the pink one. And it was like just so great for, you know, they just don't care. Plus they see all the details. Like talk about somebody who doesn't need a manual. Like a kid picks it up and they're like, what's that button? What does that do? And they push everything, and they actually like try to interact with the whole product. So you actually see where people might go that you would never expect. So when you're considering your testing, what would it look like for you to have people on the extreme ends of your demographic go through it? And thinking like, you know, especially about Courtney with your granola, right? We remember the commercial probably from growing up. You know, kid tested, mother approved.
Yeah.
Right?
I've had the experience of both at the farmer's market when I was doing the farmer's market, because I'd have little kids come up and be like, ooh, and then all the kids are just like, they keep going back to like the one they liked, or they would take like one of each, and you're like, all right, good. And then the parents would be like, no, we can't buy all the things. And then also it's interesting in Germany because I'd have some older ladies who would know what granola is because they've been to the States or whatever. So they're familiar. And other people are like, was ist das? Like it's a granola or like a muesli. And they're like, oh, I don't eat muesli. And they would just be like, nope. Or they would just be like, I don't buy things from Auslanders. And I was like, okay, well, or foreigners. It's like, thank you. Have a nice day. Target demographic, under 60.
Yeah. And by the way, that's foreigners. So they don't buy anything from foreigners.
Yeah. Yeah. I've even had bus drivers tell me that they like my product and give me like a review. Like while I was like in like a really shit location, he's like, very, very good, very good, very good, very expensive, very expensive. I could taste the quality. Delicious, but very expensive. I was like, yeah. Can't go cheaper.
No. Who else has tested their products with a demographic outside of their target?
This is kind of like my product, but not really. This was a few years ago at my dance studio for their summer program. I was trying to bring in like some different things, not just dance. So like I was like, let's do some goal setting, you know, for the kids, and not realizing that it was like a very wide range of ages. So I had passed out like notebooks for them to have throughout the week. So because they were going to learn anatomy and do goal setting and have dance. But I thought it'd be cool for them to experience some other sides of dance, even outside of movement. So like, what are your goals for the year or the season with dance and all that? But the second I passed out those books, the kids were like, this is like school. I don't want to write in a book. I'm here to dance, you know? So it was like, because they weren't expecting it, like maybe if I had told them before, like in an email, send it to the parents, or they had an idea, maybe they wouldn't have been like, what is this, you know? And then I had just come back from being gone for 5 years, so they didn't really know who I was. And so they didn't have that background of the trust with me and really understanding what I was doing. So that was very humbling for me. So yeah, like kids will just tell you straight out if they like it or not, you know. And then I was like a brand new Pilates teacher at the time, and there's a whole other way to teach kids Pilates than adults. And I kind of didn't prepare as much as I needed to. And they were like, it was just, I even ended it early. Like that was a big lesson for me, that like the kids demographic, even though I've been teaching kids for so long, when you're going outside of the scope of what you've been teaching, you definitely have to consider other things. So yeah, that was my experience with kids, just trying something different and them not really, you know, resonating with it as much as I thought they would.
Definitely unfiltered. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Gail, how much does your daughter give feedback on what you're making?
My daughter is my confidant, and she is my golden ticket. So you know how someone you might hand them something to taste. Can you taste this and see if you like it? And then they're like, oh yeah, no, that's good, right? She has the same sense of smell and taste as she does in regards to like giving me feedback on something she likes. So it's an instant reaction though. I say, hey, honey, what do you think about this? Oh, that's so cute. And I'm like, I'm gonna make so much money. Or she goes, I'm like, okay, it's not good enough. And she goes, no, it's cute. I'm like, yes, but it's not cute enough, you know? And I know like when she responds to something in like a specific positive instance, I love it. It's more of I don't want to say a universal thing, but it definitely, I would get that response from others a lot more than I would if it was something otherwise. It's almost like clockwork. It's not a question mark anymore. It's just an automatic thing with her. She's just completely resonates with my audience. The thing is that she doesn't have money, so I'm not targeting her. You see, I'm not targeting her, but her brain is so connected to the visuals on the artistic side that that's what I'm getting at. But I don't expect someone that's her age to actually buy or convince their parents to buy what I'm selling.
Have you guys ever experienced a product where you abandoned it because it was too complicated? Like, I know this happens with me with like apparel all the time. Like, I'm like, oh, that looks so cute. And then you try and put it on, you're like stuck and you're like, screw it. I can't even like figure this out in a dressing room when I'm like motivated to try on something cute. And I'm like, nope, like, I don't even know where this goes. There's an extra piece. I'm going to go back to a t-shirt.
I think I'm having a bit of trouble. I'm not sure if I'm having trouble with this right now because I don't have a sample, but I'm making this bag and it's an Ita bag, so you can put your pins in it, and it's got like a little transparent spot that people see through, so it's very obvious. But I'm doing some not obvious things, which are like, hey, you can buy this accessory and snap it on in different places. So it makes it complicated. It also makes it customizable. And it also makes it extremely expensive. I just got the sample costs, and what I expected to be a $12 bag is now a $17 bag. So a bag that I could have sold for $60, I have to sell for $90. So anyways, my point is, I'm not happy about that, but that literally happened this morning. So I'm trying to decide if I need to simplify the cost or if I need to simplify the bag. That means, do I need to bring some of the leather pieces down and turn them into print, or do I need to take some of the snaps off and some of the functionality away? I'm not sure yet.
My guess is all of your competitors are not using leather.
Yeah, but then their print will rub off if they like rub their bag onto something. That's my worry.
Look for tumbled PU.
What is that? Can you spell it?
Look for a tumbled texture PU. It's like a fake leather. But
Oh yeah, we're doing fake leather. I'm pretty sure it's fake leather, but I'm just sorry I referred to it as leather. But it's that like leather-y type textured fabric.
Yeah. The other thing to look at too is like how thin you can get it from the supplier, like whatever the resistance is. But they can like make it thinner. It's from a different part of the, if you're using real leather, you can get it thinner, or if it's PU, ask if they can get how thin can it go before it will break.
And also test printing on the leather, because you might, I feel like depending on what the print quality is, that would probably chip off leather before a textile, depending on what kind of ink, and then water-based inks and things like that also help with bringing costs down.
Yeah, I was thinking of building up the details of the character with different colored pieces and just kind of sewn on together, because I've seen amazing like Disney bags and amazing, bag making companies that have very customizable character bags that are all built up and of like their own leather pieces. Sorry, don't mind me using that word, easily. But and then I've seen people who are doing it on their own and they're just doing print, and I'm just like, it doesn't look as good, it doesn't look as quality. And there's something about quality that really resonates with my brand, and I don't want to necessarily lose it.
Or then go all in, and either you're making it good quality and then it's...
And I'm selling a $90 bag, So I hear you. I hear you 100%.
Yeah, like I don't know. My career is also in trying to reduce costs and things, and like how do you like trim the fat off of stuff? What's really essential and what's going to make it like what makes a bag special versus all the extra things, that you want to like to have in it, like if there's internal pockets or builds or snaps or what have you. Or is there value in, could you talk about it using, vegan leather? So basically what Kara was saying, like a fake leather. I should know what it's called being in footwear now. But using something of that nature and then just being like, it's vegan leather. It's no animals were harmed with this bag. And it's that much more special. It's worth $90 because you saved a cow.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually make sure I overlap with them and say, hey, we're not costing any cows, are we, in this product? Because for me, I'm handing it off to a collaborator, and she's managing the back and forths on the fabric side of things, I guess, material side. I'm like, here's my design. So I'll tell you what I'm good at. I'm not good at the pockets. I don't know what's going on. I'm not good at the breathability and the comfort level. I've never done this before. I'm good at that face and how fun it would be and stuff like that, right? So my
Focus
differentiators were that. Yeah, those are really big differentiators for me. It's like, how fun is it to have this silly derpy thing connect to this bag, and how it's a backpack, but it has little connectors that are also little card holders. So little character shaped wallets.
When I've done faces before on products and we're doing like making it look 3D with all the pieces and things, we've actually blended how many parts are actual cutouts and one color versus what parts are printed on. So how do you do the fewest pieces and how do you mix the printing? So like,
also
and emboss and deboss and all that stuff.
help give a good depth.
Yeah. Usually where we never
might actually help.
Product creation, now
yeah.
with the bag.
And my last tip before we move on is where we usually made sure we spent the money was in the facial features more than anything else, because if the eyes look correct, no one usually notices anything else. Yeah. All right. So moving on from the excitement of making real products and de-speccing them, which I think is really 90% of the job. So when you think about
Sarah, can I say one thing?
Oh yeah, please.
Just a suggestion to Gail. Step away from it for a second. Seriously, because I remember like when you design stuff and you're like, you really are focused on it. And sometimes like we would have to come back, because I used to do stuff for Target. So we were always like, how do we get cheaper? But has your daughter seen it?
So we're trying to get the sample. She hasn't seen the sample yet. But when
Okay.
she the design of it, and she's just given me that instant excitement. But she just saw the design and got excited. She doesn't need all the bells and whistles. So.
Right. Well, that was what I was going to say, was that sometimes you feel like you have all this stuff on it and you're like, it needs it. But then sometimes we're just like, okay, if somebody else, like if you never saw these things, would your customer still love it? You know what I mean? That was a lot of times that was how we got the cost down. Where and the designers were all like, we need that, but the customers were all like, they never missed it because they never saw it, and it was still a cool jacket. It was still a cute, whatever. So that might be an option.
And that's also why the designers or the people that work in the product always have the best ones, because they get the sample that was real fancy.
I should just get
Exactly.
that sample first.
Always start with
It'll be the same design, just get this fancy sample, right?
Exactly.
And you get cheaper. You never add stuff. That's always the other trick. Always go all in with the most expensive, and then you can de-spec.
I like that. That's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
And then you at least have one that you love.
So I hear an entire opportunity to just do weekly product creation calls because we all just got so excited.
I mean, we definitely got this product creation mindset stirring with all of us with this current session, like this round this month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, what's cool is like all these, part of what I love about the product creation process is it doesn't matter what you're making. It doesn't need to be a bag. It doesn't need to be a shoe or a piece of apparel. Like the same questions get asked all the time, right? Like I know I talked to Miranda, right, with like in regards with Trisha with the rock, paper, salt about like where does cost need to go? Where doesn't it? How do we take, what do the customers really care about? Because if you go back to the benefits that you're committed to providing, a good time and they're never tangible, the benefits that we're providing. So if you can still deliver on, like Gail, like people smile when they see what you have and they get excited. If they still smile and they get excited, you've achieved your goal, right? The goal is not to give them the most expensive fancy bag, right? And same thing, like if it's the cocktails and like, oh yeah, we got people to hang out together and be social and laugh and have fun, you've achieved your goal. Usually the people who make the products complicated, tying back to this quote, is us, the creators. It's usually never the consumer that wants to make it. But this is where we have to, we used to refer to it as designer maturity. Like when designers first start, they are like, no, it has to be the pure original concept. Otherwise it's a complete failure, right? And there's all this emotional attachment and we're ruining the world. And, asking us to take anything out of it is essentially asking if I can have your arm. And no matter when we're making something new, like you want the whole thing, right? I'm talking to a couple of clients right now about who are creating membership communities. And they're like, and I want this, and I want that, and I want this. And I'm like, please, like those are all great ideas. Can we please pick one right now? Because the more things cost more. They take more time to maintain. They end up being more the vision that we have of what we're trying to overachieve with and what people really want. So how do we, there's a quote that we're making like a little postcard for so people can print it out within the course. And it's essentially like, as an entrepreneur, you should always be asking, how do I give this to somebody for the lowest cost possible to us and to them? And then how do I get it to them as fast as possible? Because if we can be responsible as the creator for the lowest cost and the fastest way to get it to somebody, that's how we can make sure that more people have access to what we want to create. This does not mean that we make cheap things or bad things or it's no quality or it's no fun, but just always be asking, like, is it really necessary? There are times when that one detail changes everything and it really steps up to what you want to provide. And there are other moments when I'm really fulfilling like my own wish list of what I'd want, but the customer doesn't care. So how do we like step back, as Mikkel mentioned, and just like look at it and be like, what do people really want? And do they even notice what's actually going to deliver for them versus what I think it is? And it can be really frustrating sometimes because you're like, no, but it could be so incredible. And we have to remember that it doesn't matter what we think as the creator, only what the customer wants, which if your customer is not excited about the level of product you want to provide, it just tells me you need a different customer. And maybe you do need to this is why so many brands have ended up making at some point like these tiny capsule premium collections. Yeah, because they know they have this very small community that will pay $500 for a sneaker. And so they're like, okay, we'll just make 3 and we'll get no margin on it, but at least it's like we get to have fun and they get to have fun. And then you're making all your margin somewhere else. So how do you just reposition it that way? And you can't find those customers right away, but they will keep showing up because just like the super users in other communities, they reach out, they talk, they nerd out, they're like really interactive. And so you start to find who those people are. So being both patient and like being calm and like stepping back from the product really does change. So me personally, this week, well, technically not this week so much, but the first week I'm back from vacation, so in 2 weeks, I am taking on this concept like for the whole business. We know that things like the community is too complicated and people need a manual or asking for a manual where to find things. So how do we, it not being our platform, how do we bridge that gap? How do we make it more simplified? Do we stay on the platform? Do we switch, right? If that's really what's causing a roadblock. I have a friend who joined right away and she's like, what do you mean there's events? I'm like, we talk about this. What do you mean you don't know? So how do we make sure that everyone knows what they need so they can be as interactive as they want to? So I'm taking that on across the entire umbrella of Powerful Ladies and what we're doing everywhere, how we can streamline it, simplify it, and really focus on what people want, which is why you will probably start seeing some surveys or requests for phone calls to do surveys together, because it's really important to me. I'm not making, there are elements of Powerful Ladies that are selfish, which is like my customers. I want to hang out with you guys. But at the end of the day, like, I don't need to make Powerful Ladies if it's not working for the people who I'm trying to give it to. So that's what I'm taking on. What do you guys see as things to take on when you look back at either this quote today or the entire product creation series?
I will say that one of the reasons that I just revamped my website is exactly that. Like, it wasn't, like, it was fine and it was kind of doing what it needed to do, but I remember, like, my best friend, who's kind of like my accountability partner, she was like, yeah, the background on your website, and I was getting so mad because I'm like, how could you say this? You're my best friend, what are you talking about? But then once I finally kind of separated myself from that, and I'm like, okay, she's not saying this because she's being mean, obviously. But then I finally found something that looked more modern that I actually really liked. And as soon as I showed it to her, she was like, this, I like it already. Like, I showed her the first part of it and she was like, I like it already. And I feel like it's only been up for like a week or so. And I feel like I'm getting more visitors to it now than ever. So I think some of it is just stepping away. And but like stepping back from it and really saying what you're talking about, Kara, is this really what my customers want? And is it easy to navigate? One of the things that I do a lot is I get my husband to look at stuff because he's in a completely different business. So if he can walk in and look at it and say, okay, this is cool, I like this, I can move around it, I can navigate, whatever. If he can get it, then I feel like the people who are actually looking for what I'm selling can get it.
Yeah, that's perfect. Mm-hmm. Anyone else? Anything you guys see that you can take on before we wrap up for today?
One place where I'm at is that I did a survey with my potential clients for workshops, and I've just been kind of, as some people call it, getting a lot of downloads of like writing about helping other people find clarity in their life and helping other people kind of get back to themselves. And so I have a lot of stuff that I've written in all different kinds of notebooks. So I'm like feeling a little overwhelmed and figuring out where I want to start with my first 2-hour workshop. Because I'm going to start with just a 2-hour workshop and then expand from there. So my next step is I want to just take everything I've written and start typing it all out and then start kind of organizing it. But I also know with all the information I have, like, this meeting is awesome because I can just pick one very simple thing. It doesn't have to, and all of the rest will just fall into place as I expand things. And that's kind of like, I'm keep thinking of September as I really want to start just kind of cultivating all that information, bringing it together. And then I thought I was going to do a date last month for a workshop, but it just didn't work out. So my goal is for this month, like probably like towards the end of the month, have my first, kind of beta group and see how that goes. So yeah. And then for Powerful Ladies, one thing that I noticed just even this morning, because I don't know why I wasn't sure if there was a meeting, is if there was just like a calendar of the whole month, and maybe that exists and I don't know where it is, but that just has all the events and you can just click on the link to get into Zoom right there. And then if it's not happening, it would just say canceled this week, or, you know.
This week wasn't the thing, because I was looking, because you always, the thing that kind of is annoying for me is I always have to re-register for like the Rise and Thrive. So like I register, but then I need to re-register so I can get the email confirmation and link,
Oh, weird.
which is an
Okay.
extra step.
Well, I'm very excited because one of my biggest complaints about the platform is that they don't have recurring events, which is why we have to keep,
Okay.
my cheat is I just keep moving the date on the same exact one, which I'm surprised I have to keep re-registering. But they're doing all these event updates. So they will have a built-in monthly calendar, which is awesome,
Well,
which means it can be live and we can pivot things. We will be allowed to have recurring events, and it will have direct links from Zoom. So in it, you can instantly just like connect. I think I'm going to take a little bit of credit that I emailed them like once every day about what I wanted, but I doubt it was just me. So we'll see when that comes out, but I'm hoping it's like tomorrow because I'm personally ready for it to be.
And the app also eats battery.
Come
And I
again?
went to all the app eats the battery.
Oh,
phone.
interesting. All right. Yes.
Like if I have that app open, like I have like so many apps open, and like I'm like by midday, it's like, oh, I'm almost out of juice. So
Yeah, we need to put like a feedback topic in there too, so you guys can dump in comments in there or something like that. A way to, what are those boxes called that you can collect feedback?
feedback
Anyway.
box.
Back when we used to actually use paper and pen, and there'd be like a, your boss would have it by their desk. What's that?
Suggestion box.
Yes, thank you. Oh my goodness. All right.
I'm pretty old school.
Right?
like leave your thought of note box.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
Before there was the inbox. What was it called? Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much. We've gone 10 minutes over. I appreciate your extra time. I am so glad that you guys have gotten a lot out of the product creation series. In September, we are kicking off Dream Customers as our topic. So we get to dive into what customers we want, really who we want, how do we find them, who don't we want, how do we really look at who we're talking to and why, and a bunch of other things too. There is not a worksheet this week, but the worksheet will come out next week. And then our open session is the 14th. And then 2 weeks later, we have, it should already be in the community, we have our private workshop as well. So if you know friends who are struggling with customers, or the ones they have, or just want more customers, totally invite them to the event on the 14th. And then of course, this Thursday, we are having our call next week. We do not have Rise and Thrive, it's Labor Day. And Natasha will be leading the group call for next week. I'm very excited about that. And then this Friday is the last day for anyone in your life who wants to get the bundle for the course and the community, and anyone who's in the community to get half off the entire course. So I'll be sending out some reminders about that today. But yeah, and then the course goes live on Monday. Yeah. So thank you guys so much. Any questions, you know how to find me, and I will talk to you all soon. Bye, guys.
thank
Bye.
you.